All right, welcome everybody to Should I Register My Company Online, a webinar presented by LawPath. We're going to spend about 20 minutes today discussing incorporation and how to register a company online. And then hopefully we'll be able to leave some time at the end for any questions that you might have. If you do have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to post them in the comments section on the right-hand side of your screen. I can either cover them right then and there, or if we have some questions that are going to take a little bit longer to answer, I can always talk about them at the end. If you can't see the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen, just below the presentation, you'll see that there's a few tabs. The first one there is questions. You can click on that and that will open up the questions for you. All right, let's get started. So just a little bit about myself. My name's Dominic Woolridge. I'm head of legal here at LawPath. I am a solicitor. I spent a long time at one of the large top tier legal firms. I've also worked for the International Court of Justice and for legal aid. So I have had a vast range of experience dealing with personal matters and business matters. And so I think I can bring a wealth of knowledge today, especially around registering companies and startups. Over the last 2 years, I've spoken to thousands of startups about beginning their businesses, and especially around the structures and the ways they need to structure their business moving forward. So a lot of you are already aware of LawPath, but I'll just give you a very quick recap of what we do. Essentially, LawPath is an online legal platform where small to medium businesses can come and sort out all of their legal needs. So over the last 2.5 years, we've grown the platform to about 650 lawyers. So it's very easy for you to log onto the platform and receive quotes or ask questions to that network of lawyers all around Australia. We've grown to roughly about 23,000 clients, which really shows us there is a need for online legal services out there, and especially a lot of the DIY tools that I'm going to show you today, so that you can start businesses and start companies at as low cost as possible, because ultimately you want to be spending your money on marketing and getting traction for your business rather than the boring legal and accounting side. However, it is really important to get that sorted out at the beginning. And so over the last 2.5 years, we estimate we've saved small to medium businesses about $6 million in legal fees by providing them with the tools and the information they need. And so what that means is you can do it for free at the beginning, and then when it's time to visit a lawyer, you can access our lawyers on the platform. So today, as I said, we're going to speak for about 20 minutes on registering companies, and I've broken it down into 3 sections. So what I'd like to start with is a couple of telltale signs of when it is actually time to register your company. And we'll go through those in a little bit of detail. Then we'll look at the benefits of registering a company and why it is the best business structure moving forward. And then lastly, I want to run you through quite a practical example of how to actually register a company online, and so that you have the skills after this webinar to do it yourself. So to start off, let's cover the signs that it's time to register a company. And look, very quickly before we start, a lot of you might already know, however, I think it's really important to cover the main types of business structures. So as you've probably heard these words many times before, there are 3 main ways to run a business here in Australia. The first is as a sole trader. That's the cheapest way to start a business, but it also comes with this concept of personal liability. So anything that you do as a sole trader can be personally attributed to you. So to give you an example, if you are a builder and you're running as a sole trader and you accidentally injure somebody, or a building that you've worked on collapses and injures someone, potentially there could be personal liability to you. The second structure is a partnership. A partnership in this sense is when ultimately 2 sole traders come together to form a business. Again, there is personal liability. There is personal liability in the partnership. And the third, and the one that we're going to cover today, is the company or the corporation structure. There are huge advantages to becoming a company, and I'll cover those in a couple of minutes. And the fourth that I've put there, which is not technically a structure, is a trust or trusts. So people do sometimes get confused and ask us here at LawPath if they can run their company as a trust. A business can't be in the form of a trust. A trust is more of a relationship between parties. So for example, you can own shares in a company, or a trust can own shares in a company, but the trust can't actually operate the company. There needs to be a company structure there. And I'll cover that a little bit later. All right, so let's talk about when it is actually time to register your company. This is a question that we get asked a lot, and to be honest, there is no exact date when it's time to register a company. It's going to come down to a number of different factors, and these factors are going to be completely unique to your business. So I'll run you through an example timeline. You have come up with this fantastic idea, and you've been working on that idea for a couple of months, and you've been slowly creating your business plan, and it's looking like it's going to be something that you really want to start moving forward with. At that point, you might be starting to enter into or tick off some of these things that I've got on the list here today. And the first one might be generating revenue. So if you're generating revenue through this business idea, it's going to be wise for you to change into a company structure. A company structure is going to allow the company to earn that revenue. And particularly when we come to tax, there is far more advantages being a company and earning revenue than being a sole trader or a partnership earning revenue. The next is if you're taking on any kind of risk. So if you're taking on risks such as bank loans or business loans, or if you're taking on any kind of risk such as entering into supplier agreements or employee agreements, you need to be entering into those agreements on behalf of the company and not yourself. The reason for that is that then the risk is held within the company and not you personally liable. As I said, entering into any kind of contract needs to be done on behalf of the company and not personally. And lastly, if you're generating any kind of IP, it's really important that that IP is being attributed to the company and not you personally. And I'll touch on that a little later because that is a point that we should definitely get into a little bit more detail around. So let's flesh out the benefits of registering a company. Now, I think what I'll start with is trying to explain the company structure in a really simple way. When you create a company, you are creating a separate legal entity. So you almost need to think of a company as a separate person. You'll be the director of that company, and you'll be guiding the decisions of that company, but it's the company that's the separate legal entity that's entering all into these contracts and taking on this risk. So let's talk about some of the benefits. And the first one, as we've already mentioned, is this idea of limited owner's liability. So as a sole trader or a partnership, you're personally liable for things that happen. If you're a company, as I said, it's a separate legal entity, and so there's a buffer there between you that's running the company and the company. So for example, if something goes wrong, often, unless the directors have been negligent, it's very hard for the errors of the company to be attributed to the directors. So that's the first point around liability. And from a legal standpoint, that is the largest benefit of registering a company. The next advantage or benefit of registering a company is around having multiple owners and disputes. So if you're looking to start a business or you're operating a business with a partner, you can definitely move into a company structure with that partner. Now, the reason for that is that companies are made up of shares. Often you'll have thousands of different shares in a company, and different people can own that can own those shares in the company. So, and this also works really well when we talk about investors, which I'll get to in a moment. The last real benefit around multiple owners and starting a company is around disputes. If people own certain structured shares in a company, it's then very clear as to how disputes can be sorted out. Often a company will have what's called a shareholders agreement, and a shareholders agreement covers how disputes are settled in a company. The next benefit to registering a company is around risk. If you're launching a brand new product into the market, often there can be risks attached to that product or that service. Firstly, there are risks as to whether the product or service is going to work. Secondly, there are risks if you're borrowing any debt against that product or service. And so registering a company will create that separate legal entity and therefore lower your legal risk. The next one is a really important one, and that's when we have a lot of clients come to us to talk about investors. Ultimately, if you're starting a business, especially if you're a startup, you're most likely looking for investors, or you're looking to exit that business down the track, and that might be through a sale or through somebody buying your shares out. And so it's really important to set up the company at the beginning in a way that investors are happy. And the main consideration there is that, as I mentioned, a company is made up of shares. And so somebody can come in and buy a certain allotment of those shares for a certain price and then own part of that company. Ultimately, when an investor comes and speaks to you and they are looking at your idea and they're looking to get in on that idea, they're not investing in you personally. They're investing in the company. The company is what's going to be moving forward and generating the revenue, and therefore they want to invest in certain shares. So from an investor's point of view, a company structure is far more appealing. The next benefit of registering a company is, again, as I mentioned before, if you're entering into any kind of contracts. So this can include the hiring of any staff, employees, contractors, consultants, part-time, casual. If you are entering into these contracts, you need to be doing it as a company. The company is the one that is creating the agreement with the employee, and you, as a director of that company, will be signing that agreement on behalf of the company. So if you are entering into any kind of contracts, and from a legal standpoint, these contracts can be seen as risk, you need to be doing it in a company structure. And the last benefit today in relation to setting up a company or registering a company is around tax. And this is more of an accounting consideration rather than a legal one, but it's really important to touch on because there are some huge tax benefits if you're incorporating a company. And the main one is around the tax on the revenue that you generate. So as a personal tax, if you're paying a personal tax rate, if you're a sole trader or a partnership, you could be taxed up to 48.5% on the dollar. If you're a company, there is a flat company tax rate of 30% on the dollar. So you can see there's some huge advantages, almost 18% tax difference if you're operating as a company. In addition to that, there are a large amount of grants from the government provided to small businesses. And again, the government will want to see that you're in a company structure to receive those grants. All right, so step 3, and this is the practical side of the webinar, is actually how do I register a company online? Now, I want to walk you through this because there's been some huge changes on how companies are registered over the last few years, and I think it's important to know the differences. So traditionally, if you wanted to register a company, you would visit your accountant or your lawyer, and you would fill out what's called a Form 201. The lawyer would do that, or the accountant would do that, and then the lawyer or the accountant would walk that down to the ASIC office and have your form lodged, and your ASIC company registration would go through, and you'd receive what's called an ACN, which is an Australian company number. Recently, over the last few years, there's new software that allows you to register companies online. LawPath has a direct link with ASIC through their API, so we can actually register companies in a matter of seconds, which makes it a lot more scalable and great for companies that are based not in larger cities. So today I want to show you exactly how to register a company online, and I want to talk about these 5 points. So firstly, the software that ASIC uses that you can access through online, how you enter directors and secretaries, how you should enter shareholders, and then also the share allotments. And we'll cover a couple of the things that you need to do post your online registration. So I'm going to open up a link here, and this is actually a link to the LawPath website. I thought I'd go here first because it shows you how easy it is for you to find the company registration page. So you can see here on the screen that these are all the services that LawPath provides. So we have our 200 legal documents that you can access, our 650 lawyers that you can receive a quote for, but it's the third one here that we're going to focus on today, which is registering my company. So you click here and you'll see that, as I've mentioned, 100% online, trusted by plenty of clients we've had over the last 2 years. And we also package it up with a number of bundles. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but what I want to start with is the actual company registration process. So you would come into this page here, and you'll see that the process is made up of about six to seven stages. There's a couple of great things around registering a company online. And the first one is that there is a live search that can be taken immediately as to whether your company name is already taken. This is fantastic because instead of the back and forth between ASIC, you can find out straight away if your company name's already taken. So by entering in here, you would put your proposed name and you click on the check company names with the ABR, and this will automatically tell you whether someone's already taken your name. You'll also enter in details around the state that you're operating in and the legal element that you'd like to be. Now, this is a bit of a hot tip. In terms of this drop-down menu, a company will always be called proprietary limited. All the different options here, it doesn't actually matter which one you choose. It's just for a stylistic approach. They all mean the same thing. This is a question that we get a lot. Which one should I choose? From a legal standpoint, it doesn't matter. However, it's more of a stylistic thing, what you would like to see on the end of your company. So the next stage that we would go to is the contacts and officers. So if you have an accountant that's helping you, and as I said, it's all online DIY, so you don't need an accountant to help you, you will enter in their details here, and then you'll enter in a couple more details around where you're based. So the first substantive stage of the application is the office holders. And so these are the people that are the directors of a company. Now, a company is made up of directors and shareholders. And I think the simplest way to think about it is directors are the people that make the decisions in the company, and shareholders are the people that own the company. Now, very often at the beginning, the directors and the shareholders will be the same person. Our most common type of company that we see at LawPath is what's called a sole director, sole shareholder. So there is one director, and that director is also the sole shareholder. So you'll enter in your details here around who the director of the company is, and importantly at the bottom, the application asks for your tax file number. Now, the tax file number is used to validate your identity with the government, so it's important that you put that in there. The next stage of the application is identifying the shareholders. Now, a shareholder in a company can be an individual or it can be another company. So you'll enter in the details here of who the shareholders of the business are, the company. And lastly, how many shares each of those shareholders have. So for example, if John Smith is our sole director and sole shareholder, his name will appear in this list here of drop-down shareholders. I would select John Smith and I would say that I can enter in how many shares he has. Now, a lot of people get confused at this stage because they're not sure how many shares there should be in a company or if there should be any shares at all. What is important is that when a company is registered, it must have a nominal amount of shares. Often, some people would only put one share in a company. So maybe one share at $1, which would mean the nominal value of the company is $1. However, our general consensus of all the clients that we've helped over the past 2 years is that it's better to put more than $1. What we see the most common being is putting 100 shares at $1 each, giving the company a nominal value of $100. Now, the reason that we think this is beneficial, and again, this is just general advice, if you are confused or you don't know, you should speak to a lawyer. But the reason that we like putting 100 at $1 each is that in the future, if you're looking to sell any shares or you're looking to bring on a new business partner, you can easily give away 20 of those shares for 20% in your business. If you at the beginning had just done $1, you would have to do what's called a share split before you're able to give away parts of the business. As businesses grow, usually you bring on new partners or investors, and therefore setting yourself up correctly from the beginning is a really good way to start. Now, you don't have to have 100 shares at $1 each. We have plenty of people that come through and do 1,000 shares at 10 cents each or 100,000 shares. It is completely up to you. It is a nominal value at the beginning. All right, so that is the basic application for starting a company. And what you would do is you would check your application here to make sure all the details are correct, and then your application is submitted to ASIC. So let me talk you very quickly through the process of submitting the application to ASIC. What happens is once the application is submitted on the LawPath end, our software checks it for any errors and validates all of the information in that application. It's then submitted directly to ASIC for them to do their checks. If there are no issues, often a company can be issued with its ACN certificate within a couple of minutes. If there are some issues, it usually gets flagged for what's called manual review. And that means that a ASIC employee will check the application for any errors. And usually these errors are around the address or the phone number of the directors and the shareholders. So they can be easily fixed. So as I said, if there's no errors, it usually takes a couple of minutes and the application will come back to you with a myriad of different documents. So the first thing you'll get back is what's called your ACN certificate. This is an official certificate of your ACN number, and this is used to validate that you have a company. Additionally to that, LawPath will use our software to draft up 13 different documents that you need to run your business. I want to quickly cover these documents because they are required. So there's a blog post on our website that covers these documents. And so I advise you to have a read of those because these are the documents that you need to run a company. But very quickly, what we will provide with our company registration is firstly, the certificate of registration from ASIC. We'll also draft you a company constitution. This is a document that sets out the rules that govern your company. We'll issue you with your share certificates. These are documents to be given to each of the shareholders in your business, and they would state how many shares each shareholder has. We also issue you with some blank share certificates. But as I said, in the future, if you'd like to issue some more shares to different people, we issue you with your share journals, which is a journal of all the shareholders in your business. Office holder consent forms. These are for your directors to sign. We issue you with a template letter to the Commissioner of Taxation. This is a document that you need to send to the Australian Tax Office stating who's responsible for the taxes at your company. And we issue you with a number of other documents and blank documents that you could use in the future. Now, the fantastic thing is this comes with instructions on what you need to do, which documents you need to sign, and the steps you need to move forward. So it's a complete package for you. So I'd like to quickly cover a couple of things that we see that businesses forget, which are really, really important post your registration stage. So the first is a shareholders agreement. If your company has more than 2 shareholders, it's important to have an agreement that stipulates how those shareholders interact with each other. As I mentioned before, this specifically covers disputes and how shares are bought and sold. Additionally, you need to assign your IP. As I said, a company is a separate legal entity, and therefore all the contracts, but more importantly, the IP needs to be held in that company. So if you've been operating as a sole trader, or you've just been working on your idea and you've been coming up with designs and code and logos, you need to assign those to your company. Now, this is easily done through what's called an assignment of IP deed, and there's some blog posts on our website that explain how to do that. As I've already mentioned, you get your 13 incorporation documents that you'll need moving forward. And then the most important, this is bullet point number 5. So if you start a new company, you'll also need a new tax file number. We all have tax file numbers, personal tax file numbers that we use to, at the end of the year when we do or at the end of the financial year when we do our tax. However, a company also needs a tax file number. So our application, it comes with the TFN. The TFN is issued by the Australian Tax Office, and instead of you going and approaching them, we use our software to make that application when you apply for a company on our website. The next is an ABN. Some of you might know of ABNs as you would have used them when you are a sole trader or a partner or through a partnership. But again, a company needs a new ABN. You can't assign your old ABN over to the company. It's really, really important to note this, because when it comes to tax, the company needs to be taxed through a separate ABN as a separate legal entity. And the third point is GST. Now, as a small business, you may not need to register for GST. If your revenue is under $75,000 per annum, you don't need to register for GST. However, if you suspect your revenue will be over 75,000, you will need to register for GST. And again, our system does this for you. And the last thing is, if you are operating as a new company, your company is going to need a business bank account. And so you would take your ACN certificate and potentially your ABN certificate along to the bank as proof that you have a new company to set up that bank account. And again, there's some fantastic blog posts on our website that explain how to do this. So look, we've almost been speaking for half an hour now, and we've covered a lot of things. But what we finally want to finish with is a special offer for all the webinar attendees today. And this is a discounted offer on our company incorporation. So you all will have received our webinar page, and this link will be sent out to you. It's actually located on the tabs section of the screen that you're looking at now. It says questions, polls, and offers, and you can see there the exclusive offer. And the offer that we're running today is to do with our packages. So a basic package covers just company incorporation. A premium starter package covers your company incorporation, but adds on all those things I've been speaking about, such as ABN registration, GST registration, a tax file number, and PAYG registration. And additionally, the 13 documents I spoke about. And the deluxe starter gives you a full 12-month subscription to LawPath as well. So documents such as the shareholders agreement, if you have more than one shareholder, the assignment of IP, if you've been creating IP before your company is registered, are all documents that you'll need to complete. And the deluxe starter gives you 12 months access to all of these documents, plus 198 other documents. So today what we're doing is the deluxe starter package for the price of the premium starter package. So you save roughly $200 and you get the 12-month registration for the price of the premium starter bundle. So look, we will finish the webinar there today. I would note that if you have any questions, you can write them in the questions tab of the webinar, and I'd be very happy to cover them. If they are more in-depth answers, we can definitely get in contact with you via our phones, our hotline. You can always call us on 1-800-LAWPATH. Our team is very, very happy to answer questions for you. Additionally, if you're not comfortable with putting the question in the public question bar, you can always call us on 1-800-LAWPATH and we can answer your more personal questions for you, or follow up with an email to support@lawpath.com.au, and we'd be happy to answer questions. We did a similar webinar last week, and we received over 20 questions from people that we had and that we could offer advice to. So I see one of the questions that's come in from Sunil says, how does it help for us if we have a LawPath account? So if you already have a LawPath monthly or LawPath 6 monthly or 12 monthly account, and you're looking to register your company, you can look at their basic package, which is $199, or you can look at the premium starter package, which is $839, which includes the ABN, GST, TFN, and PIYG. And if you already have an account, I suggest calling our 1-800-LAWPATH hotline, and they can provide a discount for you on that package. Sure. So Wayne, I can see that you're asking a question around how you increase the value of the shares. So as I said, when you start a company, you have a nominal value per share, but then it turns into a free market system, whereas the shares are worth however much people will pay for them. If you need to change the share amount on the ASIC database, you can do that through what's called your ASIC portal. So roughly 7 to 14 days after you make an ACN application, you will be sent in the mail to your registered business address and what's called an ASIC corporate key or an ASIC key. You can use this key to log into your ASIC portal, and that portal will cover all the details around your company, and you can make changes to your company. For example, you can make changes to the office holders, you can make changes to the shareholders, you can change the address of your company, and you can also change the share allotments, amounts, and price. So that would be the best way if you need to change the share price of your company through the ASIC portal. All right, folks, so it looks like, Sunil, another question from you. Yes. So for tax purposes and for ASIC purposes, all businesses in Australia are required to have a registered business address. For a company, this cannot be a PO box. What we see a lot of our new businesses coming through is creating, using their personal home address as their company address to start off with if you don't have an office. And then if you do grow to the size where an office is needed, you can change it over to your actual company address through the ASIC portal, or if you're comfortable leaving it as your personal home address, you can do that as well. But the answer is yes, you do need to have an address. Karen, fantastic. You've already registered. Would you be able to upgrade? Of course you can. What I would recommend is calling 1-800-LAWPATH between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. and our team will be able to help you with that upgrade into accessing all of our documents on the LawPath platform. So what I've done there is just written in, or Tom's just written in the number you need to call there, 1-800-529-728, and we can help you with that. Wayne, thank you very much for your comment there. As I said, always really, really happy to help with any questions. Doesn't matter how silly they might be. Give us a call or chat to us on our chat function on our website, or email us at support@lawpath.com.au, and we can help you. Karen, fantastic question. So if you need more bespoke documents, I would definitely recommend using our quick quote service. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we have over 650 lawyers all around Australia that are on our online platform. What happens there is you can request a document be drafted, or you get some advice, and all those lawyers will quote for the work. Now, the fantastic thing about this is it means it's a free marketplace. All the lawyers are competing against each other for your work, and you will receive 3 fixed price quotes within 4 hours. Fixed price is really important because it makes it transparent, and you're not worried about how much the bill at the end of the month is going to be, and you can get some guidance around how much it would cost to have any bespoke documents created. Additionally, Karen, as you said, you were thinking of upgrading. We have the 200 legal documents on our website. You can use them as a template and have the lawyers alter those documents, and that will save you a lot of money instead of drafting the documents from scratch. That's what a lot of our customers do. They'll create the basic agreement on our website, and then they'll ask for a quote to have it specifically customized for their business. All right, then. Well, look, if there aren't any more questions on the webinar, we might leave it there. But as I said, there's multiple ways to contact us, and so we hope to hear from you all. All right, thanks very much for joining us today, guys. Have a good day.